there, my interweb gearhead friends. Welcome to Blue Collar Classics. This is my first introductory real video. Had some shorts going on, but I want to put this out there and kind of tell you guys what this channel is about and who the hell am I? What do I know about classic cars and why would you subscribe and click like and all that good stuff? Well, let's find out. All right, so what the channel is going to be about is celebrating the American classic car culture. Okay, um, it's like apple pie, baseball, all those things. Unfortunately, we're kind of seeing a lull in a lot of ways. So what I want to do is kind of resuscitate. I want to get some rescue breaths, at least as much as I can from my position of nothingness. Anyway, maybe I can motivate some people to help continue this fantastic hobby and industry. So I'm going to be going to car shows and cruise-ins and auctions and things of that nature. Just all the different ways that we participate in the classic car culture. And this is 2025 and beyond. And I've got something I want to touch on that here toward the end of the video. But also, if you haven't got a classic car and maybe you want to get a classic car, but you don't know really how to go about it and not get in over your head. So I'm going to talk about I'm going to look at some cars online, and we're going to talk about the things you want to look at when you're getting ready to get you a classic car, based on how much you have to invest at the time, what you need to look for and wait for, maybe save up a little more money and it gets you this and that. Some real big do's and don'ts when it comes to purchasing a classic car, whether it's going to be a project for you or whether you're trying to get one that's running and driving, or if you're trying to get one that's just done. You can take it straight to the car shows. So I'm going to cover a lot of that kind of stuff. I'm going to have some videos of me working on my classic square body and other cars, hopefully. So showing you some do's and don'ts for that. And that gets me to, okay, who the hell am I? All right, so I grew up in the 70s and 80s with the cruising culture and neighbors with jacked up Camaros and Mustangs and Kragers and loud exhaust, and so I was just smitten from day one. And before I could even walk, I was pushing Hot Wheels around the carpet, making car noises, right? So I knew I liked valve overlap and loud exhausts before I could walk, and that just translated into when I'm 16, I'm taking automotive shop class in the county vocational school, and then after school, I'm working at the garage across the street, and it was one of those old school garages that were just greasy, grimy, but I learned a lot. So, and I'll get into different stories and things in my past that you might find entertaining. As far as it relates to classic cars and working on cars and drag racing and all that good stuff. So basically, long story short, probably more like short story long, but because I know how I go down rabbit holes, and I'm going to try not to do that. But eventually, I ended up working in dealerships and that sort of thing, and I as a technician, and yeah, that was all well and good. I learned a lot, supported the family, but my heart and soul was with classic cars and street performance and drag racing, and that's where my heart was. So when I was, I don't know, 30, in my early 30s, I quit my job and opened a speed shop out in Colorado. Um, it was Scotty's Speed Shop, and the reason I named it that, and kind of the logo, the script was modeled after Smitty's Speed Shop. If you ever watch Hollywood Nights, okay, so I'm going to talk about car movies and stuff like that too in different videos. The things that motivate us and got us hooked into this lifestyle, and it is a lifestyle, we all know. So if you get hooked into this, hell, it's great because you'll never have money for drugs. So but a good bourbon once in a while can't beat. Keeps the whistle wet. So yeah, opened a speed shop, small one-man operation. Right, my shop was behind a performance parts store, and that worked out great. They sold the parts, I installed them. I did mostly engines, cam and heads and carbs and intakes, and like I said, full on engine builds and swaps. Doing a lot of bolt on chassis modifications, doing subframe connectors. Then I started getting into custom roll bars because I was also an NHRA certified technical inspector for the local drag strip at Pueblo Motorsports Park out there for several years. The gentleman that owned the parts store that my shop was behind was actually a track manager, so it was a great little setup. I was racing 3 days a week, and I was out there as a tech inspector, and all the guys I raced with, not all of them because a lot of them did their own work, but the ones that didn't do their own work, I worked on their cars. Also, there's heavy street rod kind of theme out there, so I was working on a lot of street rods as well, as far as the mechanics of them. Well, then a lot of times when you're working on cars like that, you customer wants to put in a cowl hood or some sort of body modification, some lighter fenders, something like that, fiberglass. And one of my sponsors for my drag car was a body shop called Zags, and they had a painter out there that did some amazing work. I had a little Chevy Monza coupe with a small block in it that I drag raced, and man, he did a fantastic pearl paint job on that. But what I found when I would send customers' cars over there to get little things done, and I'd call and I'd call and I'd call, and they wouldn't, give me the answers I wanted. I'd go over and find, the customer's Mustang in the back corner covered up with drop cloths and, parts boxes and crap and dust layers thick, because body shops just want to do like insurance work. Okay. They don't want to work on classic cars. There's no money in it for them. They want to do production work, and I get it. It's a business model that works versus one that's cool but doesn't really put money in the bank. I get it. So because of that, I went to the community college there and took their auto body program. So I got into one of the things that made me do that is because I had these creative urges to get in and change sheet metal around and do some custom stuff. And I was watching like OCC choppers and, all these car shows that were coming on. And I was looking at it, I was like, I can do that. I use these kind of tools all the time for, roll cages and chassis mods. I can get into sheet metal. I can learn how to do that. And then I wanted to take the class instead of just trying to teach myself, because all the chemistry involved, in a proper paint job. So took that program. I took my shop truck, just a bone stock, square body, short bed, 85 Chevy Silverado, and I took it and made it my class project. And so I've still got this truck. I have this truck now for 24 years. This truck's name is Black Betty, satin black, some scallops. I did it with a salt flats kind of theme, a retro salt flats theme. So it's got the salt flat rims on it, a modern version on them, and they're 20s or 22s or some crap. But I did some cool modifications to the body to kind of make it look retro. A lot of people, when I tell them it's an 85, they're like, what? So anyway, I'll show you that. It's going to be in the videos a lot. Anyway. So, had my speed shop, that store shut down, economy, 2008, housing crisis, blah, blah, blah. And so ended up shutting the shop down just because I liked working on cars, but I'm horrible at business. I am horrible at running a business. I'm not good at marketing. So anyway, I like just turning wrenches and cutting and welding and painting and stuff. So I've also, about the same time that happened, I got tired of living for 20 years in Colorado where it was snowing from September to May. Okay, I'm an outdoor guy. I like to ride bikes and whatnot. And so got tired of that. The wife at the time, also tired of that. So we love the beach. We'd always travel to the East Coast to the beach every year for family vacation. So we said, screw it. I said, okay, where's it warm 24/7? Florida, South Florida to be specific. And so I go to the Miami Craigslist and I'm looking for, I just type in mechanic. And lo and behold, restoration mechanic pops up. So, shop down in South Florida. Ooh, thunder. All right. Hope, if a tree falls on me, call 911. Who will edit the video? Anyway. So, okay. Um, so, long story short, I go down there. I get a job as restoration mechanic. And I'm not a restoration guy. I'm a refurbish guy, but I'm not a concours restoration guy. To like, we're looking at date codes and everything's got to be exactly perfect. The pile of the carpet has to match exactly to the specifications of the manufactured date. And but yuck, no fun. I'm a day two guy. We'll talk about day two too. We'll talk about a lot of shit. I will probably let a cuss word slip now and again. I try not to because I know it turns people off. But, former Marine, I tend to use the F word like a comma in normal conversation, but I'm trying to tone it down. So, anyway, I worked down there for like 5.5 years and doing some major builds. Most of my builds are in the $250,000 to $500,000 range. And they're anything from a custom brass era REO to resto mods, Gen 3 Hemis and all aftermarket suspension and brakes and electronics in a 68 Charger or 55 Coronet or 59 El Camino. So a lot of the Chevy trucks from the late 40s, early 50s, and did a Coyote swap on an F100, 56 F100 with a no limits NASCAR style chassis, and just all these things that were really fun to play with. They were fun to get all these $20,000-$30,000 chassis and brand new. These weren't junkyard engines. These were brand new out of the box. LS3s and Gen 3 Hemis and Coyotes and just it was fun, but our clients were billionaires with a B. Okay, the millionaires with an M often would have a hard time keeping their accounts up to snuff so that we could continue work. Like I said, these cars were anywhere from $250,000 to $500,000 for a toy, basically. A lot of this custom stuff, they're not, some of the cars that were built in that shop that weren't really my forte were, these were 62 Ferraris and, 250 GTs and, all these different things that are worth millions of dollars. So a $300,000 to $500,000 build on a $2 million car makes sense. We did a $365,000 build on an $85,000 valued GTO just because the guy had the money and he wanted what he wanted and he wanted it now. But to me, that's not really the American car culture that I grew up with. And it kind of, after, like I said, 5.5 years of it, I was just burned out on the decadence, I guess. Like I can watch Ken Diggett, Bitchin' Rides or something, and they have amazing artists actually building those cars, metal artists. And it's fantastic, and I love watching them work. And I can do a lot of that. Maybe not to their level, but I did a lot of it. But I don't want to do it to that level, really, because of how much it costs. It makes the cars unobtainium. And the problem with that, too, is it makes the base material, the car itself, more valuable, and it becomes out of reach of the average American. And that is distasteful to me. I don't like that. I think everybody should have a muscle car in their house. You know, everybody should have a muscle car, whether it's their daily driver or their weekend warrior. Everybody should have a classic car or truck or something. Um, I know that's impractical and not reality, but I'm just saying that's. I think everybody should be able to have one if they want one, if they have a job and a place to live, and they can afford the basics. It would be really cool if they could also, if they want to afford a classic vehicle and go out and enjoy it. So this channel and my experience is going to be geared a lot toward, okay, we're not going to put the 6 piston caliber 14-inch drilled and slotted rotor sealed hub, drop spindle, blah 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 on your square body. We're going to show you how to change wheel bearings and set the adjustment and replace worn parts with factory replacement parts that worked great for 100,000 miles back when the car was new. So, and we can get them for a minuscule fraction of the cost of the fancy stuff that everybody seems like. And I've done it too, where I'm like, oh, I've got to have this, this, and this, and this. It's what it's what's out there. It's what's the cool trend. It's what's everybody's doing. Screw that, because if you can't afford it and you got to save up, 6 months to buy a set of brakes for your car, the car's sitting in the garage or in the driveway or on the carport instead of being driven because you got to do what everybody says you got to do. That's bullshit. So I'm going to be looking at a lot of get them running, get them stop them, get them steering, get them on the frickin' road. All right, go out and enjoy them. They don't have to have the $50,000 paint job that you can see next weekend. Okay, you can do little bits of metal work and rust repair as you go while you're still enjoying the car. And so those are things I'm going to cover. I want to really thank the genesis of this kind of movement. And I don't know if he meant to be at the time, but he's kind of become that. And it's not just he; it's multiple people. But David Freiberger, Steve Dulcich, Finnegan, those guys with Roadkill Garage really had a positive impact on the blue collar Joe and Jane being able to enjoy a classic car, because they made it cool to drive a car that wasn't finished. And I was doing it before it was cool just because I like classic cars and I don't have a lot of money. So, the only way to make a lot of money in that industry, you have to own the shop. But even that's not guaranteed it's going to work out. So I'll even talk about, getting young blood into being classic car mechanics and car builders. And fabricators, and painters and all that kind of stuff. Because it's a whole lot different painting a show car than it is, street cars that get banged up on and brought in for insurance work. Totally different mindset, and a totally different work ethic. So I'm going to talk about a lot of that. How do we get the young generation back into this hobby in this industry? Because if we don't, it's going to die. I mean, it's already suffering. It's on life support, so at least dialysis. So anyway, yeah, and that's who I am. So I'm going to kick off this next week. I am horrible. I'm going to tell you this right now. I am horrible. I've got tons of footage. I am absolutely the worst at getting stuff edited and compiled into a watchable video and then put out to the public. So I've got to really work on that. I'm going to do my best. I hope I do my best, because if I do my best, it'll happen. That's the problem is, I've got, 50, 60 hours worth of normal job every week. Got all the other stuff in life. So, this is just because this is a passion project for me. Just doing it because it's an important. I think it's important. The classic car industry and hobby has been a huge part of my life since before I could walk, and I didn't even know it. Um, so I just don't like the direction it's headed, and I want to help more people have a positive experience, whether they're going into the industry for a career or whether they're going out to buy their first project car and trying to figure out how to get it back on the road. Um, and all the different ways that we can enjoy these cars with all the different events. So that brings me to tomorrow morning. I am doing a bucket list item. I've been to all kinds of concours d'elegance with cars that I've worked on at the shop, and been drag racing for many years. I don't do that anymore, but I did that for many years. Um, but this has been a bucket list event for me, and that's the Hot Rod Power Tour. So the 2025 Hot Rod Power Tour starts off next week, this coming week. Um, and tomorrow, my buddy and I are going to hop in my square body that I've just done a crap load of upgrades on the engine. And I've got maybe 100, 200 miles on it since all that. So I hope it holds together. I hope I didn't screw something up. Because no matter, you see it on television, no matter how many years you've doing this, parts can fail. You can do something just minuscule wrong, and you're on the side of the road. Or, yeah, you just never know. Anyway, so weather's kind of iffy, but we're going to hit the Hot Rod Power Tour. We're leaving out of Charlotte, North Carolina area tomorrow morning and toward Indianapolis. So it's like Indianapolis Raceway Park is day one. So we're going to try to get there ahead of time and scope out the joint. I'm going to try to video and edit and put videos out during the week. I'm going to do my best at that. I don't know. This is my first power tour. Like I said, it's a bucket list thing. My truck turned 40 this year, so it's her 40th birthday present to go on this power tour. And yeah, I hope you guys subscribe and like and look out for videos, and we'll see what happens with this channel. Hopefully it works out and you guys find it enjoyable and informative. So yeah. Wetting that whistle. So anyway, put down in the comments things that you would like to possibly see out of a channel entitled Blue Collar Classics, and what you think about the hobby, the industry, and kind of the trajectory of those things in modern day America. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see everybody's kind of viewpoint on that. Anyway, like I said, I'm going to be documenting our experience on the 2025 Power Tour and Hot Rod Power Tour. I think you got to say the whole name. It's like a movie star. You got to call them by their first and last name. Anyway, so that's that. And yeah, I want my interweb gearhead friends to tune in and, like I said, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, share, and comment, please. Comment. I love the comments. It makes me feel good. And the little thing goes, ding, so-and-so commented. I go read them right away and try to get back to you if it applies. So, cool. All right, guys. I'm going to try and do this video tonight. Put it up on the interweb and see what happens. Later, Gators. Have a good night.